Okay, welcome back everyone to a conversation about design. It's been a few weeks since our last episode. Took a small break just to kind of rethink about our future episodes, guests, topics, etc. But I'm super excited to come back and with this episode, and really excited to kind of have Pavan here with us today. He's going to do his own intro. In the past, usually I've done the intros, but I think it's better to kind of have the guests do that for themselves. And I think we've got a super exciting topic that we're going to talk about and explore today as well. Pavan and I know each other maybe about 5 or 6 years or so. Yeah. But yeah, Pavan, welcome. I'll let you kind of tell everyone about yourself.
Thanks so much. I'm Paavan. I'm a senior product designer at a company called Skin and Me right now, which is a D2C subscription skincare company here in the UK. But I've been working in UX and UI for 7-8 years, and absolutely love it.
Yeah.
And as well as working as a designer, I love teaching people about design and about like the future of design, where it's going. So I worked with Experience House and taught some of their Figma courses a few years back, and now
Hmm.
I make YouTube videos for new designers, just exploring lots of different things about all around how to like become better at design and what that means in
Yeah.
25 and beyond.
Amazing. Yeah, and I think that's the kind of stuff, the education bit and then your kind of exploration of AI tools recently. That's the kind of stuff I'd love to discuss and talk about more.
Yeah.
But I think it would be also useful to just kind of, you mentioned you've been kind of working in UX and UI kind of for about 7 or 8 years. Can you let us know kind of how your journey started and kind of what made you think that this is the kind of the career path for you?
Yeah, of course. So I have such a like mixed career journey, and I think I love I always tell people that it's like never a straight journey, never a linear journey. So
Hmm.
I actually did a computer science degree a very long time ago, and then I it was actually quite a strange degree because it was joint computer science and philosophy,
Okay.
and I was not the best at the computer science, and I
Hmm.
much more enjoyed the philosophy. So then I did a philosophy master's, and then I was like, what do I do now? I've got a master's degree in philosophy, and I went to a bunch of startup events in London. I went to something called Startup Weekend, where you have to basically come up with a business idea in a weekend. And
Yeah.
I met a really great guy there called Krish, who told me about a company, an agency called And Digital.
Hmm.
And what I loved about And Digital is as a junior, as like a graduate level associate, you didn't have to define your career path. So I did a junior developer interview. I did some like basic front end coding tasks to get in. But then as soon as I got that job, I was like, I still don't think I want to be a coder. Can I try being a scrum master, try being a
Hmm.
product analyst? And all of this was new to me. Like I hadn't worked in tech, and this idea of that there are jobs in tech which weren't coding jobs was completely new to me. And I was just so fortunate that my very first like mentor at that company, Evelyn, was just an amazing, amazing UX designer. So she kind of took me under her wing, taught me what UX design was. I didn't know anything about it at the time, and I just kind of like went from there, like worked my way up, taught myself Figma, and then now that I'm a like full time designer and have been for many years now, I tell like school friends and people who knew me since I'm,
Yeah.
I tell them I'm a designer now, and they're like, "Oh yeah, that makes sense. Like obviously that's what you've been doing since you were a kid. Like
Yeah.
how did it take you so long to figure it out?" But
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's just like everyone's career path is different. It takes you a while to like work out
Yeah.
what it is that you want to do.
Yeah, and I think, and that's as absolutely right. I think, especially coming into our experience house programs, that everyone is coming from completely different backgrounds. They have completely different outcomes that they want, or kind of where they see themselves in a couple of years. And I think trying to fit to the mold of like what everyone else is doing is kind of the wrong approach.
Yeah, and I love that
As
with
well.
Experience House because
Yeah,
you get people who are like architects or
yeah,
accountants, and everyone would just bring different like different things to it, but they were
yeah,
all super helpful because UX
yeah,
is just about like empathizing with users and like
yeah,
understanding how people work. So
yeah,
it kind of like works with all backgrounds.
yeah. I think that diverse thinking. I mean, in the last couple of years, we've seen even chefs, florists, paramedics. Like it's such a different background, but they all bring a different skill
Yeah,
as part of that. Artists who are coming in, and it's just amazing to kind of see the kind of how the groups kind of form and how they collaborate together as well.
yeah.
Um, so now, kind of stepping into kind of you now kind of obviously 7 or 8 years in the career. Um, what were you kind of seeking? Because I know you've kind of moved to a couple of different kind of roles since the first consultancy. Kind
Yeah.
of what kind of prompted you to kind of move on, and because I'm just it's interesting to kind of explore at what point am I okay? What's my next challenge?
Yeah.
Right. So can you just explain a little bit about that?
Yeah, so the
Yeah.
consultancy was great because, like all agencies, consultancies, mine was one where you had quite short term engagement. So I wasn't somewhere for like 2 years. It was like 3 to 6 months. I'd be on a project. I'd like work on a design system, work on a new product, or do a couple of design sprints, or do a discovery phase, and then you'd be moved on. So
Hmm.
that was great at the start of my career because I just learned loads of different things and tried different sizes of companies. And
Yeah.
then I realized I'd been at some of, some bigger corporate companies via that consultancy, and I realized the thing that I personally enjoyed was much smaller companies where you have more of an impact, you have more direct ownership over stuff.
Hmm.
I kind of looked into getting into more startups and scale ups. And one thing which I, in my last job, absolutely loved was the like level of ownership of the product that I could have, where basically I had access to GitHub, I had
Mm.
access to like write code, and I'm not like a very good coder. Like I said, I did it a long time ago.
Yeah.
But when you're working so closely with a front end engineer, and you're a designer, and the back and forth of Figma files is like you're like writing up really long notes and QA notes and like writing
Mm.
out specs. Sometimes you just want to get in and like tweak stuff yourself. So that level of ownership, I think, is very, very difficult to have at really big companies. There's always like
Right.
security policies and lots and lots of people, and you don't want to step
Mm.
on toes. And it's all about like relationship building. Whereas if you're a team of 10, you can just kind of
Yeah.
say, "Hey, I want to have a go at this. I want to have that kind of ownership."
Hmm. Yeah, no, that makes complete sense. And I think again that's something that people eventually, once they're in the right position, can then start to take that ownership on. But initially, they may need that mentoring as well.
Yeah.
Um, Now let's step into kind of the education bit because obviously you came and did some great teaching with us at Experience House. What kind of got you into wanting to like get into that kind of thing?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I think when I was using Figma at
Hmm.
that consultancy at Ant Digital, I think I'm probably wrong in saying this, but definitely in my office, I was the first person to use Figma in that office. People were using Sketch.
Right.
And I think it was during COVID. Sorry, this is a bit of a roundabout story, but
No, that's fine.
during COVID, I'd left my like MacBook in the office and
Yeah.
gone to see my parents for the weekend, and then suddenly you couldn't travel, and I was like, I don't know when I'll be able to go to Central London again. Let me just use my laptop here. Obviously, you can't get Sketch on a Windows laptop, so I was like,
Yeah.
hey, let's try out Figma. I think we can collaborate more easily on it.
Yeah.
Um, and I just like, took off from there.
Okay.
I'm like a
Yeah.
massive nerd about Figma. I absolutely love
Yeah.
it. I've got the merch and the socks.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so I was using Figma, and because I was first in my company to use Figma, I was like making little videos on Loom back then to share with people. I was like,
Right.
hey, I figured out how you do components and variants and component properties.
Mm.
And then I took some of those videos and put them on YouTube. And I was like, this is really fun. I really enjoy
Hmm.
sharing what I know, trying to make it engaging and in a shorter format.
Hmm.
And around the same time, I'd been invited to give like a talk at a design meetup in an evening, and I was
Hmm.
terrified, but put together some thoughts about UX
Yeah.
and gave a little talk. And again, at the end of the event, I was just like full of adrenaline. I really loved just like speaking and educating and like
Yeah.
sharing what I know with people. So then, yeah, I was like reaching out for more opportunities. I don't know if you remember, we were talking about it for like over email for like 6 months to a year, and in one email you were just like, "You're just gonna have to come and teach a class at some point."
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I guess I'm just gonna
Yeah.
have to, like. There's like only so much chat you can do. So yeah, I just
Yeah.
built it up from there, and then yeah, I've been trying to build this YouTube channel up.
Yeah. How's that going? How's the journey of building that out going for you?
Oh, it's a roller coaster. Some videos you
Yeah.
think you're like, this is the best video I've ever made.
Yeah.
You put out and they just don't do well. And then
Yeah.
sometimes you get one and it's just like, oh yeah, people really love this.
Right.
And I think with YouTube, what's interesting is it's like the content itself obviously is really important, but
Yeah.
more than just like tutorials, you have to come up with like an engaging hook, an engaging
Yeah.
title. So now I'm like working less on, I'm just trying to work out like what premises would be interesting.
Right.
Video I did recently about trying out lots of AI tools. I think
Hmm.
finding stuff as a challenge means that it's this type of like edutainment, right? It's like
Yeah.
education as entertainment.
Yeah. In a way, it's almost like watching a big. I've never really gotten into that at all, but I understand there's a big thing around watching other people play video games. Like they record their screen. It's almost like they've got a challenge, and I don't know, watch somebody go through this challenge.
Yeah.
but I'm going to sit back and enjoy it.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, and obviously now you're just taking this into the kind of the AI tools. So let me try and fix this thing. But
yeah,
I agree. Like even with Lovable, I self-taught. Most people have kind of just figured
yeah,
out Lovable on their own. When I get stuck, I just go and watch somebody else trying to figure out how to do it. I'm like, oh, that's very simple. Let me now apply that to kind of what I'm doing.
yeah,
Um, yeah, and I think that, like I said, just before we kind of started recording, I think even our audience really values that. And it's not to say they're going to go and watch every single video, but having it on demand or having it when they need to kind of have references. And I know our instructors are also sharing your videos out as well. Um, I think that's going to, as soon as you're stuck, you're like, okay, I know where to go. I know there's a trusted place I can go and get that help
yeah.
as well. And it's like that you're just getting, you just need that hook, like you said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just have, I don't know, for the last 10 years I've been like watching so much YouTube. I love
Mm,
watching creators on YouTube build stuff and make stuff and try out different tools. I remember
yeah.
watching these with like After Effects, like green screen tutorials
Yeah.
when I was 13, like how you can make like
Yeah.
a lightsaber effect. And so the thought that I'm like now able to also contribute and like
Yeah.
make videos is like, it blows
Yeah.
my mind that we're in a world where I can just like hit record on my phone and
Yeah.
go up. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
cool
I
world.
think this is the perfect segue into like,
Yeah.
what I like love about what you've just said is that all this content is out there, and there's so many great talented people who are putting this content out there for free. Obviously, monetization and stuff happens, but as a consumer, we don't necessarily care too much about that. But we just want the kind of the information. But I think there's such a level playing field. Like you can go and ask for help
Yeah.
for anything. It's going to be there. It is going to be there. There's no excuse now for not being able to kind of seek this stuff out, right? So with that level playing field, let's talk about some of these kind of the AI tools, like we were just talking about. Like everyone's got access to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody's got access to them. It doesn't matter if you're an individual designer. We're doing a lot now work with companies, from banks to kind of even the smaller organizations that kind of want to look at their workflow. And of course, there's a bit of kind of trepidation, or kind of like they're like, oh, I don't know if should we be doing this, etc. But once they kind of get over that kind of little kind of curve and can understand kind of the power this brings in, it obviously kind of changes the way that they kind of actually do think about those outputs and that workflow as well.
Yeah.
So where I'd love to kind of explore this is like, what's your viewpoint on kind of the role of the AI tools and platforms as a UX designer? Kind of where do you see these two things kind of aligning?
I really see the future of design and designers being more and more moving towards like people who are making stuff. So I think
Mhm.
right now the status quo is we do the UX work, we do the research, we do the strategy,
Mhm.
we do the personas, then we go into Figma and we do the last bit of the double diamond, the UI,
Mhm.
the high fidelity screens, and then we kick it over the fence and send it to front end developers,
Mhm.
and then it's not our problem. And I think that line between UI designer and front end developer is just going to completely
Mhm.
disappear in the next 2 years. And maybe that's a bold statement. And it kind of touches on this thing of whether designers should code and should designers know about code. But like with Lovable, and
Yeah.
there's so many of these tools I've tried, Polymat, Base 44,
Yeah.
like you just don't need to code. Like they
Mhm.
show you the code, they explain how they're doing it, but the like AI models, and it always seems to be based on Claude, and Claude 4 Sonnet is just so good now, and the way like it can just spit out Next.js, TypeScript.
Right.
You've got like Tailwind and Chatien. If you don't know what these words mean, it doesn't matter because it just
Mhm.
like it
Yeah.
writes it all, um and it doesn't mean that the work of a designer is just going to be like write out a text prompt,
Mhm.
is I think so many of these tools can make use of design. So, like 6 months ago, you could drop in a screenshot from Figma and it would like have a good attempt at like basically the way my understanding is that it would use some like visual image processing, convert the Figma screenshot into a text description, and then use that text description to go and make it. So like that's what it means when it sees an image. But last month, Figma released their own. So other people have released open source versions of MCP servers, but Figma released their own one last month. And what that means is you put in a Figma link, and instead of it, trying to decipher a screenshot and convert it into text, it's literally looking at the layers and the layer
Mhm.
structure of every file. So if you're a UI designer, you're using auto layout in the right way that will directly correspond to Flexbox and responsive layouts, and you've got everything labeled up and organized in Figma properly, you drop in a link and then the AI can just like recreate it straight away. And obviously Figma are trying to do this themselves with Figma Sites and Figma
Yeah.
Mate, but we're just at this time where there's an explosion. Like there are so many different tools to
Yeah.
try, and I think because there's so many competing tools and lots of VC money flowing into it, everything is free, as you say right now.
Yes.
Like there's no like barriers
Cheap.
to entry.
Yeah.
It's cheap or
Yeah.
cheap or free, works on any machine. Um, so yeah, that MCP stuff as well. And for anyone listening who doesn't know, the best way I've heard an MCP server described is it's basically like an API for an API. So it's like a way to get access to any tool which you can get access to. So
Right. Right. Right.
basically a
Right.
way to get like anything into a AI tool.
Yeah. I don't think we've gotten Figma sites and Figma Make as part of our kind of education plan yet,
Yes,
but
I
I'm,
think it's on
yeah.
the professional plans.
Yeah. 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 So I need to have a look at that because I think, again, we want to get people starting to play with it.
Yeah,
And I definitely want to kind of start playing with that as well. I think going back to kind of the UI to front end dev, this is going to start to now become part of our courses, especially in our full time program. So for the capstone project
yeah,
that's coming up, the current group, we want them to actually code it and we want them to build it in Lovable, the
yeah,
solution,
amazing. Yeah, yeah,
right? And I think that's going to be such a game changer for that now. And then we can start to kind of roll that out across other courses. But that's the reality of where they're going to go. That's where the reality of where, and it's not as daunting a task as it might seem. And like to your point, it's not about the prompt. All that other critical thinking,
that's the important stuff. Yeah.
that's the important part. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
being a UX designer has always been like, the difficult bit about it and the most important bit about it has never been the like 10% of UI design at the end.
Mm.
It's always the thinking and
Yeah.
working with people. And people are always like, oh, is AI going to take my job? I'm like, if you're a UX designer, you know that the difficult thing is talking to people, getting them in a
Yeah.
room, getting people to like vote on ideas and
Yeah.
set a direction. So I don't think AI is going to take,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
but it's just
Yeah.
such a useful tool. And I think there is a tendency, like you said, people can kind of be scared by it. Like, oh,
Mm.
is my job changing? Am I expected to be coding and doing prototypes? But I think it's such a, like right now, we're in this like probably 1 or 2 year period where there's such a massive opportunity for people who are really curious, really like driven to go out and try stuff by themselves. Like,
Yeah.
you and I don't have on like me and you, we're trying stuff out
Yeah.
ourselves every day. Like,
Yeah.
and the technology is literally changing. Like every month,
Yeah.
there's something new, some like new way of doing stuff or a new release of Claude, which
Yeah.
just brings things to another level. So I think it's like it's a scary time to be a designer because no one knows what it will mean to be a designer in 5 to 7
Mm.
years time. But it's a really exciting time to be a designer because if you're curious and you jump on
Yeah.
stuff like this, then yeah, you can like make a huge impact. You basically got like a huge moment of leverage right now.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I think with all that kind of that scary time also brings opportunity. Like
Yeah, yeah,
like it wouldn't say in any kind of business. You almost have to treat it like this. And I think to your point around you have to kind of the next 1 or 2 years, I don't think that, and I agree with you, I don't think the role and the critical thinking and the process changes at all. But
yeah,
what you need to do is extend out your capability to say, I now can take this and I have the ability to kind of think almost like a business analyst and turn this into some front end code
yeah,
or,
yeah,
or use Lovable or Bolt or whatever to take it the next step. Or I have the ability to kind of step into other tools to kind of extend my thinking or ideation or whatever it is. But if you just stay limited, everyone's just going to race ahead because they're just going to be so much. They're going to be able to skip out some of that mundane work and just really focus on kind of that and bolstering their creativity or boosting kind of their outputs as well. And they're just going to race ahead completely.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Your teardown that you did, and we'll link to it on this. I'm fascinated. Like, uh, how did you go about kind of choosing? Because I think why I'm going to ask you this question is because I think it's such a valuable exercise to do as a designer.
Yeah,
Right now, what's great about what you're doing is that you're not only analyzing these tools and doing this teardown, but you are a designer, so it's
yeah,
beneficial in many ways. Plus, then you're creating a video for other people to kind of use it.
yeah.
I don't think there's many people yet that are kind of doing these teardowns for themselves individually, and yeah. So I kind of just want to understand kind of what was your thought process around approaching it.
Yeah, so so for anyone who's not seen it, it's I basically did a video where I compared 23 AI tools and I gave them the exact same prompt and then rated their output.
So they were the same part of the workflow. Sorry to interrupt, but were they? What were they? Was that prompt? What was it
So
for? What was it
it
trying to
was
achieve?
about a 4 paragraph prompt. It
Yeah.
was, I want you to design a landing page for a D2C subscription
Okay.
instant company. I picked that because my last few companies have been D2C companies. I kind
Yeah.
of understand a bit about it. And I thought, hey, a landing page, not too much complexity.
Mm,
And I had little traps in the prompt. So I had, hey, I don't want you to use any, janky AI generated images. Just let me use placeholders and I'll put
mm,
high quality photography later. I want you to use these fonts. I want you to use this type of color palette. And then I gave like some general advice, some specific advice.
mm.
And the reason I did this is basically all of these tools are so different. And I feel like I did some of these tools a bit dirty because some of them are not like one shot AI prompt design tools.
Right.
Some of them are just like fully fledged design tools. I had one which is Firebase Studio, which is for making Firebase projects, which is just like they're not really meant for web projects. Like
Right.
Firebase is like an application builder. I tried to get like Replit in there, which again is like a
Mm,
basically I was like sort of anything where I saw that they've like quickly added a one shot AI prompt to like copy Lovable and Bolt and these tools.
yeah.
Like, let's add them into the mix.
Mm,
Yeah, so I did a single prompt because it was the sort of the fairest way that I could include as many tools as possible.
okay.
And the
Yeah.
reason I did this idea is basically people have been in like designer chats I'm in. We've been
Mm,
every time one of these tools comes out, people are like, "Oh, have you seen this? There's another
mm,
one out." And I'd seen a few people do teardowns where they compared like 4 or 5 on Twitter, and it was always like a different subset. So I'd never seen anyone compare all of them.
right.
I've been thinking for like honestly for like 3 4 months, like could I do all of
Yeah.
them? So the thinking on this video took a lot longer than well, I mean, it took a while to film and record as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wrote this really really long prompt, put it in all of these tools, took high quality screenshots of all of them,
Mm,
put them all out in FigJam. Originally, I recorded like an hour of me going through every single tool and being like, "Oh, this one's
wow.
nice. This one's a bit like the colors are a bit off." But because so many of them, my assumption is because so many of them use Claude 4 or Claude 3.7
Yeah.
at the time as an underlying thing, they're all quite similar.
Yeah.
It was a really like boring hour of me being like, "Oh, this one's quite similar."
Yeah. Yeah.
So then I was like, how can I make this a bit more interesting and engaging for YouTube, a bit more valuable? And I had this idea of, hey, can I get other designers' opinions? Because instead of it
Yeah.
just being me being subjective, I wanted to get lots of opinions of people.
Yeah.
I was very fortunate to get some other really talented designers, and I wrote a whole framework for scoring them. So you can
Yeah.
check out the video, but like,
Yeah. Yeah. No, I've started watching it. I'm definitely gonna um um complete it as well. I've also kind of signed up to do a Coursera course on AI and financial services, which I thought I better do that because this is going to be very super useful in some of the conversations I'm having. So it's quite a bit of learning that I want to do over the next and watching over the next couple of weeks.
yeah,
Um, I kind of want to now because it's fascinating that you've done this teardown. You're kind of evaluating them, and there's no doubt because I'm pretty sure you saw Lovable. I think it was last weekend where they kind of opened it up
yeah,
completely free. There was something like 250,000 apps were built on it or something.
yeah, yeah.
Have you gotten the urge to like build out like an actual kind of product of your own?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I would love to. I'm always like tinkering with different ideas and different
Mm,
websites. One that I'm working on right now, which is very tricky because it's not front end web code. So I think these like LLMs are really, really good at writing, a Next.js app, and it's just
mm,
very like standard. And I'm trying to write a native Android app for editing uh, something called Scrivener manuscripts. Basically, there's this like file format for writing novels or like long pieces of
mm.
text, and it doesn't exist as an Android app. And then I'm an Android user, and
Right.
it's literally it's not a money making thing. I think
Yeah.
the user base for this will probably be me and
Mm,
maybe like 5 other people around the world. But I'm just curious. It's
yeah.
like what I said earlier. I was like, hey, I wonder how far I can push the limits of this.
Mm,
Can it actually make an Android app? Can I like tweak the design and bring in my own design screenshots and
mm,
feed it to the LLM? And I've been really impressed. Like
yeah.
it is just making an app. I don't understand any of the code. It's just writing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
There's an
think
app
again, just
called Cursor, which is, if people who are listening who do have a little bit of coding experience, I'd say
yeah.
Cursor is definitely the way to go.
Okay. Okay. Good to know. The I think again, just to your point around the next 1 to 2 years being this great kind of opportunity. Yes, there's a lot of change, but staying on top of that and that curiosity is very important. But I think we're going to hopefully start to see an explosion also of like these little micro apps or
Yeah,
micro
yeah,
SaaS services that people are kind of coming up with. That could again could be most of them will be because they're just solving a need for themselves, like you
yeah.
have
Like
stated.
super personalized, like really
Yes.
small user bases, just for my use case. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think there's definitely use cases for Lovable to build out some kind of internal tools for experience out students to kind of use, have access to, even if just like access to a learning hub or whatever. Like we don't need to go and get anything custom built now. We just literally just prop
exactly.
it up with Lovable,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
So,
I wrote
yeah.
something recently where I wanted to automatically post an image or a video to Blue Sky, which is this like new Twitter alternative. I
Mm,
wanted to post something there every day. There was some, social media schedule. There are so many social media scheduling apps, and I was trying to like comb through the requirements and the price lists and be like,
yeah.
my requirement was I wanted to drop a folder of images into a web app, and then it just automatically posts one a day, and I don't do any more work than that. I don't want to like
Mm,
come back, I don't want to write captions, I just wanted it to do that. And I was like, this is really hard. And then I just made an app that did it for me. And it's like I haven't published it anywhere, it's just solving
yeah.
a need for myself. But
Yeah, 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 yeah. I when I first started playing around with Lovable, and what I love about it is you can just start spinning off projects
yeah,
as and some I'll get something somewhere. I'm like, actually, and I've got another idea. Let me go work on that. But one of the things I started working on, and that's where it really was like, wow, this is very, very simple. I do also think you need to kind of step back. What I'm fascinated about it is, say something like Lovable, is that you have to think again like a business analyst, where that incremental you're not going in and just going one bang. Here it is. You need to think about incremental build, and
yeah,
I think that step by step kind of that thinking is definitely needed. But I had seen someone kind of talk about building something that analyzed their golf swing, and I
yeah,
was like, oh, that'd be really cool,
yeah,
because I would love to build that in Lovable. And then I kind of went on YouTube and I figured out how to connect um, the actual AI side of things so that I could actually analyze the swing. So you got the thing to upload the video, then I got the actual analysis, but then I kind of over engineered it a bit. So it started kind of not giving me like the right info.
yeah.
But it got to the point I was like, this is unbelievable. Like this is
Isn't it
so,
great?
so good.
Like a year ago, you just couldn't have done
Could
anything.
not do that. And to write the spec for that
Yeah,
and to explain that to somebody if you're trying to offshore it, like forget it.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Right? Just couldn't do it. Now you could literally spin it up in a weekend.
yeah,
In fact, one of the, and you may have seen this, what I want to do is I want to issue a challenge to our community and have an evening where, say, probably September, where people come in with lovable prototypes.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I think
Yeah.
that is. I think what's really cool about all these companies, like Bolt have done one, Lovable have done one. I've seen a few other companies. They're like really pushing hard on these hackathons and
Yeah.
promoting it with these big prizes. I think the reason they're doing that is just, you just got to get people trying them, and then as
Yeah.
you have just
Yeah.
from your example, once you try it, you realize how easy it is, how much fun
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah. And now we're showing it to some of the kind of the innovation teams at some of the banks that we're working with, and they love it. And it's just because they can rapidly prototype use cases.
Yeah,
And they know it's not going to be production ready, absolutely, but it's that finer. It's a much kind of more detailed and interactive prototype than you would say we get with Figma,
yeah,
which still has obviously still has it will always have its place, but it allows you to kind of have other kind of use cases for actually testing that prototype. And I think it's phenomenal. I think it's phenomenal what they've built. I'm not surprised that what it's the biggest growing monthly
yeah,
recurring revenue product that's there right now. I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. And smart tactics by putting out 200, like let the whole weekend will be free,
yeah,
right? It's just super smart. um I kind of want to close with a question where I think I totally admire kind of your approach and kind of your dedication to not only the curiosity but also sharing it. I think that's great. And I like I said, I really admire that. I think it's needed, and I think it's the good quality stuff that you're putting out. So I think, yeah, please keep sharing it with everyone, and creating it and sharing it with our community. Where do you see yourself, say, in 5 years? Now, you've got this 1 or 2 year window where it's going to be crazy, fun, exploring. But if you're like, okay, me as a designer, 5 years from now, this is what I would love to be doing.
This is the exact like kind of conversation I'm having with people in my work. I'm trying to like work out what my personal career path looks like. I really, my honest answer is I don't know. I think,
Mm,
like I said, design is changing so fast, so quickly. I think at my current company, I want to find like an overlap, a Venn diagram of things that are valuable to me to like learn, experiment with, try out all this AI stuff.
yeah,
Also valuable to the company, like pushes on our company goals and our metrics and like helps us innovate. And I think there is probably a really strong overlap where I'm kind of doing some AI powered building
hmm,
part of my design work. So I'm doing all my like day to day design work, solving problems, interviewing users, that stuff. And at the same time, I'm like turning, like you said, it's like doing all the stuff, but then adding on that extra step.
yeah,
And it's just finding a way to make that work in a company of the size I'm currently in with the engineers without like, you know,
yeah,
and like explaining it to the business and showing the value of it. So I think that's the kind of like the plan of the current company. And then, but 5 years time, I think is just such a, you know, like
yeah,
that time scale right now is like so far away
yeah,
and everything is going to be so different. I genuinely, I've got a friend building out a startup right now, and the progress he's made in 6 months, he speaks to people in his industry who've been in it for 10 years and they're like, how did you do that in 6 months? Where's your team
yeah.
of like 200 engineers in India or something?
I
And
need
he's
that.
like,
Yeah.
oh, we just did it ourselves. We're like, the pace of the tools changing and the pace of which they're changing and the improvements is just crazy right now. So
S-
yeah, I
I-
can't give you a 5 year answer.
No, no, I think that's very fair. Most people don't have it, and if you ask me, I don't necessarily want to change anything. I kind of just want to have a few other things going on,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
right? And kind of like juggling a couple of different things, and kind of again that would just bring a great sense of curiosity around how can I build and leverage. And I think that's there's no other kind of like, oh, I've got to be at this, I've got to be doing this. There's no answer. I don't have an answer like that. But I do want to follow up with something that you said there. Do you think there's a bit of a risk in a way for some of the current designers? Because there's a lot that's happening. Things are moving super fast. I guess let's end with, what advice would you give to a current, say, junior or mid-level, well, any design, junior to senior? What advice would you give in what you've forecast coming up over the next 1 to 2 years?
My advice would definitely be not to be scared, not to hold off and be like, oh, I'll try it when the tools have matured and when there's like a clear
Mm,
winner who's emerged, or when there's like when there's a bit more certainty. I'd
mm,
say jump in right now. And I would definitely not say that that is advice just for junior designers. I think that
yeah.
has to be for designers at all
Oh
levels of the
well.
spectrum.
Yeah.
I think tech as an industry overall has changed so much in the last few years. Like it's
Mm,
way harder to get a job. I actually think designers are probably some of the most insulated from the changes that AI
mm,
is going to bring, because people who are pure front end, like not full stack devs, um, that I think there's going to be a massive change coming. So
yeah.
yeah, my advice is just try stuff out,
Right.
try it out
Right.
right now. Stop
Yeah.
listening and go try stuff out.
Yeah. Absolutely. Pavan, thank you so much. Where can people, give us a bit of a plug? Where can they connect with you? Tell us about the channel as well.
Yeah, so YouTube. So my website is paavandesign.com, and on there you'll find links to like my YouTube, my LinkedIn, other social media. And yeah, my YouTube channel, I'm trying to post videos once a month where I just teach people how to become better designers.
Yeah.
I've got this great, I found it really fun doing this AI challenge where I tried out
Mm,
over 20 different AI tools. I've got some more fun challenges. I'm trying out Figma Draw, very different type of design, but more like creative
yeah.
stuff. I've got a fun challenge with that coming up, and then some
Nice.
like AI content. So definitely give that a follow if you can.
Amazing. Yeah, we'll definitely add it into all the footnotes and when we post this out. Look, thank you so much. I've always kind of admired kind of your approach and your just a willingness to kind of share and yeah, just a very simple kind of clear curiosity, which is great. So I'm
Mhm.
sure we'll continue to have conversations. I need to get you in to come and speak to our alumni
Yes.
at some point because they'll just love it, and I think it's we've got these curiosity sessions we're doing once a month, and I think yeah, we need to get you into to speak to them about it. More, we need to get more of them there. Again, I'm just something I'm kind of like, why are they not soaking this up? It's all free access and free stuff. So, but I'm sure you'd attract a big crowd. So, Pavan, thank you so much for
Thank you.
joining us.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
All right. Have a good day.
Have a good one.